Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out. I am Todd Jacobs. I have the privilege of serving as your Community Foundation president. I'd like to give a special thanks to Destiny at Country Cooking, the folks at Only Cook Cannoli, as well as the folks at Lively Kombucha for putting that on today. The Community Foundation team put a lot of energy into making today work, so if the staff at the Community Foundation could just stand up so we can give them a round of applause. Carla Flanner has also assisted with today's event. It's great to see so many familiar faces and to see folks inside of the Frauenthal. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for working your way through the obstacle course that we call the sidewalks outside of the Frauenthal. In case you weren't aware, that is intentional and part of our preservation campaign that is going on. These sidewalks are being removed, and while they're being removed, we will be placing heating elements. So this winter, you should be able to travel safely, and it should be much more accessible for everybody here in Muskegon County. Folks may not be aware, but the Community Foundation helped to save the Frauenthal back in the 70s. There was a millage that helped to support some renovations in 1985, but just the continued use has required that we engage in a preservation campaign. Last October, we actually kicked it off, working to raise $5.1 million. We're in the closing moments of that. We're at about $4.8 million, and again, many of the improvements that you see are because of your support and many others, so thank you. Back in 2019, when the board made the decision to make that investment as part of our investment in downtown Muskegon and building a vibrant community, we also underwent a new strategic plan. And in that strategic plan, we had asked community members like yourselves, donors, grant partners, Friends of the Frauenthal, volunteers, trustees, and received several hundred responses. And we asked the community, where can we make the greatest impact? In every one of those groups, as a subgroup and in total, said that the top 3 areas that we can make an impact in the community is in the area of education, in the area of community and economic development, and around diversity and equity and inclusion. And so tonight, we're going to celebrate the impact and the perseverance of Muskegon County and all of its residents. I just want to share some of the key work that's been done over the last 18 to 24 months. We finally have folks in a group. And I think one thing is any of the work that the Community Foundation is involved in is never done by ourselves. We've got great community partners in United Way and with many of you who are donors to the organization. And it's because of the collaboration and the partnerships that we have in the community that we're able to move things forward. The response of United Way and the fact that Community Foundation could help families and nonprofit organizations serve folks when COVID began. Educationally, we are partnering with Muskegon Area ISD and all of the local public schools to place literacy coaches in every elementary school district in the county. And so that'll be a huge piece when we're thinking about helping kids read and being grade level literate when they're in 3rd grade. We're working with Muskegon Public Schools as well as Muskegon Heights and local business folks for their pre-K for all program. So it's helping provide early childhood education to young people that did not have that opportunity before. From a community and economic development standpoint, we've been working with the city of Muskegon around neighborhood revitalization in the Jackson Hill area. We've been working with Community and Compass around affordable housing. We've partnered with Goodwill in the Y and the Covenant Academy around a new nonprofit daycare facility, the first one of its kind in Muskegon County. And we've worked with organizations like Grow Business to provide microloans to small businesses to make sure that they could survive and then take advantage of opportunities that presented themselves during and after COVID. We've also worked to develop resources to ensure that there are resources for our local nonprofits and local businesses in partnership with Muskegon Community College and their Office of Diversity. And again, we're able to do that work because of you and your investments in Muskegon. So I want to thank you all for all that you do. It's now my privilege to introduce to you our speaker for tonight. It is Brianna Scott, local philanthropist, lawyer, entrepreneur. She's got a very proud mom, so she's a daughter and a mother. She's going to talk about the power of positive impact and the importance of finding purpose. Brianna, can you please join me?
Go White! Ooh, I feel so comfortable when I hear that. All right. Well, hello, Muskegon. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here before all of you this evening. I must admit, I was a little perplexed when I was asked to be the keynote speaker. I'm like, what in the world? Why would they want to hear from me? Because as many of you all have before and previously, I have sat in the audience of annual meetings and heard the great speakers of the past, and I somehow was just questioning whether or not I really measured up or not. However, I began to reflect on the impact that I at least have strived to make in this beautiful lakeshore community that I call home. And so when they asked me, I thought to myself, well, have I succeeded thus far in my journey? What more can I do to make a difference in this community and to inspire all of the new generation who will pick up the mantle after me? So that caused me to start thinking, well, in case you're not aware, all good things start with us as individuals, and that means each and every one of you. And this is because as leaders, in your homes, schools, churches, your organizations, each of us has the opportunity to influence people in certain ways. You have to understand what your own operating model is, and that's an internal type of thing that you have to figure out for yourself. And for some of us, it's a struggle. But once you realize what your internal operating model is for yourself, your ability to influence others will become strong because you will be passionate about whatever you do. So for as long as we humans have been around, we have often asked ourselves questions about what our purpose is in life. How many of you out there have asked yourself that at some point in time? I think most of us do. And I think it's really common in human nature for us to do that because each of us wants to have some kind of impact. We want to feel like there's something that we've done important that will make a lasting legacy after we're gone. But sometimes it's hard to see what difference we as individuals can actually make because we feel often that we're just only one person, so what could we really do? And so today I really want to talk to you about how one person can make an impact and how that evolves in a community. Well, let me tell you, even if you're not trying to solve world hunger, or you're not trying to solve global warming, or impact poverty in our community or in our country, if you brainstorm and start to try to think about ways in which you think that you can give back to your community, you're likely to find something. Because when we help others, it does not stop with us. Studies have actually found that when one person does something, volunteering or getting engaged, they typically bring another along with them. Other people tend to get inspired when one person starts to actively engage, when they have that excitement for something that they believe in. So one person's actions really can make a difference. And I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about my history so you can understand why I have had the passion that I have for the issues that are closest to my heart. So I grew up in Norton Shores in the 80s. At the time, I went to Mona Shores High School. During that time period, it was before schools of choice, not very diverse. I was like one of I believe 4 Black people in my graduating class. I often felt like I didn't really fit in, but I also would try to fit in with my cousins who maybe went to Muskegon or went to Muskegon Heights. I'd try to hang out with them, and I kind of felt like I didn't fit in with them either. People thought that I talked different. They didn't know who I was, so I always walked this line of like, who am I? I don't feel like I fit in. I'm the oddball. I'm always the oddball. That's how I've always felt all my life. But one of the other things that I started to notice were just the disparities that I would see. I look at the things that we had at our school, and then I look at some of the conditions of other schools or other neighborhoods. And another thing that I started to determine was that Muskegon was very segregated, even back at that time. It was really different for me because even though economically my family was pretty much at the same level as most of my classmates, I still didn't fit in, even though there wasn't anything financially different. It was just the experiences. And it was at that time that the words diversity, equity, inclusion weren't the catchphrases that they are today. People didn't really talk about it. No one talked about how to make Mona Shores High School inclusive. I was never discriminated against. I had great teachers, great classmates, but we never talked about how to make it more welcoming to those that were different. So that was something that stuck out with me. After graduating from Mona Shores, let me strike that. Before I even graduated from Mona Shores, my parents often tried to get me involved and engaged in things in the community. And one of the things that my parents always raised my siblings and I to believe is that to whom much is given, much is required. We're not here just for ourselves, we're here to give back. We are expected to give back to those that are indigent, those that have less than us, those that we can mentor. We're to mentor them so that they can come up alongside us. And so on Sundays, from the 10th grade until I graduated, my dad made me. It started off him making me, but I eventually loved doing it. I became a candy striper for the old Muskegon, I think it was the Muskegon General Hospital. And at that time, when I candy striped on Sundays, the times were 9 to noon. So my dad would wake me up on Sunday mornings, I'd get dressed, go put on my candy striping outfit, do all of my candy and striping responsibilities, and then he'd pick me up at 12 o'clock. Sometimes we'd have lunch in the cafeteria there. And I know, my dad can eat, so sometimes we wouldn't leave till about 1 o'clock or so, but then he'd drop me off to church. So I know some of you are thinking, well, gosh, if she didn't get to church like 12:30, 1 o'clock, what in the world? But that just means you haven't been to a black church, because at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, we're just getting going good on a Sunday. So I didn't miss anything, did I, Pastor Duran? I was always there, always there. So I found, though, in doing all of that volunteer work, how very rewarding it was to do things for others without expecting anything in return. Nothing, just to give back, and how happy it was that I could make people by spending time with them and doing things with them. Upon graduating from Mona Shores High School, I then followed in my oldest sister's footsteps and decided to attend Michigan State University. Go green, go white. And while there, I engaged in many organizations. I volunteered at the rescue mission and served food. I did different things on campus, and I just loved it. I just continued giving back, continued volunteering. And I really, when I think back on my young adult life, I think the only time in my life where I can say I was not actively involved in giving back was during law school. But I really had a good excuse, because I had gotten pregnant at 20, and I had a 2-year-old when I was in law school. So just imagine that. I had no free time between studying. So that was probably the only 3 years that I can think of in my life where I did not volunteer, or I didn't serve on a board or on some kind of committee to give back. But once I got back to Muskegon and became the first African-American assistant prosecutor's office in the Muskegon County Prosecutor's Office, I once again saw this is an opportunity for me to make a difference. Because despite the fact that a lot of the population that was going through the courts at that time looked like me or were brown and black, there was no one representing them that they could identify with that was coming out of that office to prosecute. So it was a very adversarial relationship. I saw the disparities that were going on with court cases and how court cases were handled. And it was then that I realized that God had brought me back to Muskegon for such a time as this, which, if you read the Bible, you know about where that phrase came from. So I used my position to influence and create change, and it started by taking that very risky chance in 2005, leaving my law firm job and deciding that I was going to go into private practice. And the desire for me at that time was I need autonomy because I want to help people for free. And my bosses at the law firm didn't really like that too much. So when I started my own firm, I began to do a lot of legal work for churches, a lot of nonprofits. I started getting actively engaged on boards. And as well, in my pro bono, I helped people that were starting businesses. And then because I like to dance, something that my mom said I mastered at the age of 3, I said I'm going to give back in that way too, because I had a talent. I felt like God gave it to me for a reason. So I became our praise dance or liturgical dance leader at my church. And I did that for approximately 10 years. And that was my way of mentoring the young girls that were in my church. So in my spare time, what did I do? I also offered my expertise in other areas. And quite frankly, whether I knew it or not, back when clients weren't paying me, I did way more pro bono work than I really had planned on doing. So in 2007, I had the distinct honor of being brought into the Muskegon Rotary Club by Blanche Smith at the time. I didn't know much about Rotary other than that my dad was a Rotarian, and it was a lot of movers and shakers, and I really always wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. So in joining it, I just got really engaged and wanted to really make an impact, because I felt that Rotary, with all of the leaders that were in that club, that was the place where we could do that. So I really started to reflect on how we could, change the atmosphere in our community. And in approximately 2013, under President Don Crandall, I had a conversation with him about the Institute of Healing Racism, which at the time many Rotarians had gone through because it was required when I first came in, but it was to help us to learn how to deal with disparities and racism that we, well, not everyone, but many people suffer in this community. And so I talked to Don about some of the things that I was concerned about, and the fact that I thought that the Institute for Healing Racism Committee was a little limiting, and that maybe we could make it broader. And it had been part, as he reminded me today, of his strategic plan, of which his wife, Nancy, also helped him with. So we got to give them both credit for this. But we then started the Muskegon Rotary Club Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I want to thank Don for that, because that is where I found the life that I have today. I mean, I really feel like I came into my own, because this is the area that I feel I am the most passionate about based on my own life experiences. So I thank Don for that. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee started off with 5 eager Rotarians. We were eager, we were excited about making a difference, but we weren't very popular. It wasn't one of the most popular committees at the time. But this is the power of one, right? Or in this case, 5. Because by the time that I left my chair position as the DEI committee chair in 2020, we had over 30 engaged members from Rotary, and I believe we were one of the busiest committees in Rotary during that time period, and we were doing some great things in the community. So I want to talk to you about all of the great things that this group of 5 that grew to over 30 was able to do, and the impact, the great impact that we made in Muskegon. Our purpose was to improve diversity awareness and inclusion in our club, but also in our broader community. And so I want to go through what our definitions were, because this is kind of what we drove, or what drove us, I guess I should say, into the areas that we wanted to have the most impact. So it was kind of our guide, if you will. Diversity is the sum of the ways that people are both different and similar. Diversity has many dimensions that intersect in a wide variety of ways, and these dimensions include race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, language, culture, religion, mental and physical ability, class, immigration status, and there are others. I think some of the most profound diversity, however, that we experience has to do with what I call, and maybe you've heard of this phrase, diversity of thought. And here's the key. If you want diversity, you have to bring people around the table with diverse experiences. So differences in learning styles and differences in professional fields are all very important. Equity entails an intentional focus to reduce disparities, opportunities, experiences, and outcomes for all members of our club and our community. With that definition, equity was expressed as a commitment to address historical and current manifestations of social biases, exclusion, including ways in which social arrangements disadvantaged some groups and legitimized others. And inclusion to us meant belonging to an environment in which people are welcomed, accepted, connected to one another, where the community came together in a friendly, a caring, and authentic way, and having opportunities to participate in an ongoing evolution of people and growing. So what did we do? I'm a little hoarse because I went to the game this weekend and we won. I think I yelled a little bit too much this weekend, and it was homecoming, so forgive me. We spearheaded 4 very unique programs, and so I want to talk very quickly about them. Our very first thing that we decided to do in order to really get the club, get our membership, and the community to buy into diversity was to do programming so that people could actually see ways in which maybe you don't even think about that you're not inclusive, right? So we did programs on religious diversity. We had an interfaith speaker. We did an inclusion of people with diversities or disabilities type of program where we had people come in and talk about barriers that they were finding in the workplace or in hospitals or in their churches, things that you just don't even think about. We had people come in and talk about racial discrimination and diversity, a program that featured the LGBTQ community, as well as discussing the obstacles that they were having with things such as bathrooms, things that we would take for granted. Being, in a place where they felt that they could be comfortable and being accepted for how they described themselves or how they viewed themselves. We talked about mental health. We had programming on drug issues, on economic diversity, as well as a food from the country type of program where we could eat food from all of our various cultures, from Rotarians, where we really had a really great time. But the food was just delicious, and it was a way for us to experience things from that perspective. We also did big programs like the Impact Forum, and if you recall, back in around 2014, there was a lot of crime going on in Muskegon. People were very disturbed, and I would say that the community had a lot of distrust at that time with law enforcement. We saw that as an issue. We needed to bring the community together. We needed to heal that divide between law enforcement and the community. And we felt that it was extremely important for people to feel safe because all of the untold stories, all of the crimes that were not being solved were because people were afraid. And we needed to understand why they didn't feel that they would be protected, why they didn't feel that the person would have the appropriate remedies in the social justice system, and they'd rather, keep this person in their family versus letting this person or pushing this person to go forward and do what they should have done as a good citizen. And we had law enforcement who really didn't understand how African Americans feel and why we run. Why do we run when they come? They didn't understand the history, the historical content that goes behind all of that. So those engaging conversations really healed a divide, and we did that over a period of approximately 3 to 4 years. And then we decided, because the city of Muskegon Heights in particular was having a lot of negative press, the MLive comments were extremely disturbing, and there was just a lot of racial, I would say, insulting things being said about the city of friendly people at that time. And so we decided we wanted to do something in order to show the good that's there, so that people could start to meet individuals, because oftentimes what happens is we as humans, we want to be comfortable in our own silos with people that look like us, that we're comfortable in, and we never want to really step outside that comfort zone to get to know someone else who may not look like you, may not dress like you, but ultimately we have so much more in common than we don't. And so we decided, and this was a idea of Jim Fisher, who's not here tonight, to get with the city of Muskegon Heights and throw what is now called the Community Mixer. Now that event started with 250 people. We decided we were going to have food, dancing, drinks, that'll bring people out. We also had nonprofits come out. And with 250 people, we thought, oh great, this is good. This is a good start. We thought if we can get 250 people each year, we're doing fabulous. And I don't know if it was us and how great the program is, or if it was Vern Smith's fish that people often wanted and would line up around the place to get. But by the time that we did our last one pre-COVID, which was in 2019, we had over 750 people at Rowan Park in the city of Muskegon Heights from all different cultures, all different ethnicities. Getting to know each other, talking about things that we have in common, learning the hustle. I mean, I saw Realistine Wilkins out there with Judge Brenda Sprader doing the hustle. I mean, this was great. It was awesome. And so what were we doing? We were building a divide. And that's the power, again, of one. One person, Jim Fisher, had an idea, and it just spread, right? And then in 2017, there were racial epithets that were left in a couple places. I'm not going to go into the details in Muskegon. And politically, the climate was ugly. I think we can all go back in our minds to that time period. So Marsha Hovey Wright, who's right there, she says, you know, I think we need to try to do something. We need to heal this community. And out of that came Love Lives Here. How many people have seen the Love Lives Here signs somewhere around Muskegon? It's the power of one. Marsha brought it up, just kind of like, okay, let's do this, and we ran with it. We got over 400 people to sign a letter, sending a very strong message to those that wanted to divide this community by race, create havoc, make people feel that they didn't belong, that we weren't going to tolerate that here in Muskegon County. And that message was very strong and clear at our program. We had speakers from every different type of religion, different ethnicities, different races, and we all came to celebrate the differences that make our community so very beautiful. And out of that program, and out of that letter, we became such a force in this community. I'm happy to say that we didn't have any more incidents after that. And I would like to think that in part it had something to do with us that really took the horse by the reins and said, we're not going to take this, and we're going to make Muskegon an inclusive place where everyone feels that they are loved and that they belong. And I'm very proud of that. So then we'll fast forward to 2018, and man, Larry Nassar just really jacked up my university with what he did and caused so much hurt and pain. And with all of the fallout, it was clear that there was a lack of leadership there. And I was just very sad. As an alum who loves my university, extremely sad. Part of the reason I was so sad is because I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I had not gone to MSU, because as I said earlier, I got pregnant at 20 and had planned to drop out of school. I mean, I was pretty much going around making my rounds to tell people I'm leaving. I'd just gotten sworn in as my chapter president for my sorority. I told them I'm resigning. This is like really embarrassing. I'm so sorry to embarrass you guys. My dad was embarrassed. He was the public health director and had gone all around Muskegon talking about abstinence, and here's his unwed daughter pregnant. I mean, I was embarrassing everybody at that time, and I just was like, I gotta go. So I went around and I talked to my boss at the Eli Bow Business College. Her name was Becky. She was an Irish woman, really short. She was so cute. And she said, Brianna, I'm not letting you leave. I'm gonna take you to Fine Aid. We're gonna figure out where to get you some money and where you can get housing. Went to my sorority. We're not letting you resign. We think that if you stay and you continue on as president, you're gonna show what perseverance looks like, and people are gonna really see that anybody can do anything. I went to my friends. They're like, oh, we're gonna throw you baby showers. You'll have whatever you need. You don't have to worry about not having any money. Went to my professors. We'll send your homework. Send someone to get it. We'll work with you. My boss, she kept my job for 6 weeks. This was before FMLA. She didn't have to do that. She could have fired me on the spot. But they all just took me around and hugged me close and made sure that I felt loved and that I felt supported. And because of that love, I was able to matriculate through MSU. And then a professor who said I knew how to argue so well in my business law course convinced me to then go to law school. And I told him, well, I've been practicing since I was a little girl. I come from a family of 8, dude. Like, that's what you do when you've got a lot of siblings. You learn how to argue. But he saw something in me and pushed me towards that. And in going to law school, I am who I am today. I was able to do all of the things that I talked to you about. And so giving back to MSU to me was about saving this university from further destruction and being able to give of the talents that God's blessed me with, having the legal expertise, having the entrepreneurial skills that I had, and other things, my walk of life, the path that I was on. I was a different type of individual. I wasn't the normal student there. I was what one would consider not the standard 20-year-old that was there living in the dorms. I lived off campus. So I had a different experience, and I thought that would be helpful. But when I thought about running, people looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, "You are a black girl from Muskegon. You know all of the political clout is in Southeast Michigan. You are never going to win a statewide race." That was like just a joke. People thought that I was just in way over my head. And if you ask people in my committee, we probably were. At that time, because of everything that was going on at MSU, there were over initially probably 20 people running for 2 spots on that board. But what God has for you is for you. And this campaign of people that didn't know what we were doing did such a phenomenal job that I ended up as the top vote getter in the state of Michigan. I had more votes. I had more votes than Bill Schuette, who was running for Attorney General. I like to tell him that when I see him too. And I beat every single person that ran for university boards. That means I had more votes than the University of Michigan Board of Regent candidates, Wayne State Board of Governor candidates, and the other candidate for Michigan State University. So how's that for a black girl from Muskegon that didn't know what she was doing? And at MSU, we were able to whip things into shape. And man, there's like really no one there that was there during that time. We went in and we fired them all pretty much. So president on down, we've got a new president, a new provost, new deans in most of the colleges. We have revamped our policy and procedures for audit, risk, and compliance. I was able to use my expertise as being a public defender, or not public defender, a prosecutor, and then my criminal defense work, where I worked with CSCs and worked with survivors of criminal sexual conduct to help the board to understand some of the issues as we went through all of the hundreds of settlements. I'm talking about hundreds. And it was very useful. But that all goes back to finding your passion. I was able to use all the things I was passionate about to make a difference at MSU. And how does that tie back to Muskegon? Well, along with the Community Foundation, I supported and advocated on behalf of Muskegon County for MSU to strengthen their local and regional efforts to accelerate agribusiness, entrepreneurship, and grow the food sector through the MSU Farm program. How many of you have heard of Farm? Yay! So Farm stands for Food, Agriculture, Research, and Manufacturing. And that facility is located on the campus of Muskegon Community College, where MSU and MCC provide joint food certification programs. MSU has a staff member now. That was something that we pushed for this program. And we are able to collaborate now with the West Michigan Food Processing Association to help accelerate the farm growth. We're enhancing MSU's credibility over in West Michigan, as well as expanding partnerships here in Muskegon. And that's because this girl from Muskegon decided to go on a board of trustees. So it really does not stop with one person, because again, if you're on fire, you're gonna turn other people on fire right with you. So in ending, remember that the ability to inspire is the single most important leadership skill a person can possess. It's your ability to infuse energy, passion, commitment, and connection to your mission and direction that is essential. And finding your passion will enable you to affect change in your organizations, your churches, schools, anywhere that you are, but especially in your community. You see, we all have a role to play in our communities, and within each and every one of us lies the capacity, you hear that? Within each of us, I'm no exception, to create change for ourselves and others. So find a local organization, a local campaign, an issue that speaks to you, that is something that makes your heart flutter. And you as well will help to make our world a better place for generations to come, because you can make an impact. And I want to leave you with this quote that I was asked to make. I'm like, I've never made a quote before, but I hope you like it. My quote, I hope, is inspiring, and it says this, that if you want to live a fulfilled life, you have to see life through the lens of a servant, of something greater than yourself. Once you do that, your passions will lead you to exactly where God predestined you to be, making the ripple, little ripple, that builds the wave of impact that slowly but surely moves across the body of water that you call your community. Thank you.
Wow. I'd like to thank you for being an inspiration to us, but to future generations. You know, I think she said she felt like an oddball. I guess the challenge tonight is let's push our children and our grandchildren to all be oddballs. Again, thank you very much. The power of one. At this time, I'd like to invite our board chair, Dr. Dick Camps, and our board vice chair, Brad Hillary, to come on up to present the Impact Award. While they're making their way up, I'd like to read the names of our Board of Trustee members, and if they're here, please ask them to stand up for a round of applause. Gary Allure, Jill Botka, Pastor Dwayne Bennett, Jan Dewar, Pat Donahue, Ed Gardner, Dave Hazekamp, Katie Hensley, Judge Maria Lattis Hoops, Stuart Jones, Dr. Michelle Lloyd Page, Troy Nichols, Rosalia Patino, Aslan Scott, Judy Stojak, Priscilla Wilcox, Dr. Tony Wilson, and Tom Wett. Sure, a round of applause. Thank you very much for making your impact.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Dick Camps, and tonight we have an opportunity through the Impact Award to identify and celebrate an individual who has done great good for this community. And in the process of choosing an individual or an organization for this award, some of the criteria focus in on areas that are particularly meaningful to the foundation, areas that the foundation holds as real values in seeking to promote this community of Muskegon County. Those values include things such as promoting hope and opportunity and education, and also fostering collaboration among people of our community and organizations, and also to build an inclusive community where each person is valued and each person has an equal opportunity to share in the benefits of living here in Muskegon. Tonight's award winner, recipient, is someone who really fulfills all these areas and just stands out in each of those areas. And Brad here is going to actually identify that person who up to now is not aware that they're the recipient of this award. And as part of the award as well, this piece of art here is from Western Michigan artist John Reipma. So the recipient will receive this reminder of their reward. In addition to that, they'll also be able to direct a $5,000 grant to support work that they have been and are continuing to promote. So with that, let me introduce Brad to introduce our recipient.
Awesome. Thank you, Dick, very much. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Brad Hillary. I'm the current vice chair of the foundation, and very pleased that I was asked to be here tonight to introduce to you, or at least to reveal the name of this particular individual. I've had the opportunity to know this person for a while now and be on a number of committees and local organizations and participate with this individual many times. And the thing that I have appreciated about this person is not only do they listen, but they hear. And that can be a difference. They hear you. They hear where you're coming from. And if they don't understand it or understand you, they inquire and they ask questions to know more about where you're coming from. And so with that, I will begin to introduce this individual. Well, quickly, you will know who it is. But one of the things, and Dick mentioned this a little bit, this individual has been dedicated to fostering hope and building opportunities for all. Hopefully that phone call is not this individual and they're leaving the room right now. So just wait, it might be you. This individual, I'm going to call them a North Sider. They actually are a native of the Twin Lake area and a proud graduate of Reese Puffer High School as a Rocket. We got some of those in the room. And then I know this is going to be appreciated because of our previous speaker. They continued on their education and became an even prouder graduate of Michigan State University. That go green, go white. Now, like a lot of us in this room, me included, we grew up here and then we went away. And we went away for school and maybe we came back, or we went away from school and we continued our career path elsewhere. But there's something magical about Muskegon and Muskegon County that we hear whispering in our ear no matter where we travel around this country or the world, and it brings them back to this community. And that happened 13 years ago for Dr. Dale Nesberry. So let me tell you a little bit about Dale in the last 13 years that he's been here back in Muskegon. So he came back to Muskegon Community College as their 10th president. And he didn't waste very much time. The first thing he did was he led a $24 million bond authorization approved by Muskegon County voters, and also secured an additional $21 million in grants and private gifts to support the most ambitious upgrade to the community college since its beginning in 1967. He went on to then, and as you guys have probably seen, but if you haven't, a fantastic part of the revitalization of downtown Muskegon and the Sturris Technology Center, which is amazing. If you haven't been there, ask for a tour because it's fantastic. And that's not just educational, it's working with the local businesses to identify the needs of those businesses and kind of take that education to what the local economy needs so we can teach those individuals. He didn't stop there with money. He's pretty good at this. He raised an additional $14.1 million for the Health and Wellness Center that was built on the community college campus. And then some of you might not be aware of this, but this is pretty cool. Muskegon Community College was named named as an Achieving and Dream Leader College and the best community college in the state of Michigan by bestcolleges.com in 2017 and intelligent.com in 2019. Number one. And it's not just graded against the state of Michigan. We are top 30 community colleges out of 1,200 across the entire country. Since Dale has been here, he worked very closely with the MAISD and John Severson to create the Muskegon Promise Scholarship that many in this room I know have been part of and contributed to, which brings that hope and ability for many youth in this community to go to college. And then, as we heard Brianna talk about, he partnered with Michigan State University to work with the agricultural opportunities and learning to have that farm location right on the campus of Muskegon Community College. So fantastic. Under his leadership, as the Board of Trustees, he's helped create the DEI task force that the Community Foundation as well has supported and is going to be a big part of helping this community as a whole better understand some of the definitions and some of the understandings and how we can do this. So they are taking that point in our community as working with businesses like myself and others, nonprofit schools, government, and working on their DEI strategies and training. Now, Dale has some spare time, and so in his spare time, he has serves as the chair of the Trinity Health Systems Michigan Regional Board, member of the Lakeshore Advantage Board, as well as other state and other committees. He is a past trustee of the Community Foundation Board and continues to sit on the West Shore Symphony Board and Shape Corporation's Inclusion Committee, just to name a few. And something you might not know about Dale is he's all but a professional ballroom dancer. He has participated in the Dancing with the Local Stars, and he can cut a mean rug. And he's also an okay horn player, if you've heard that. So, would you please join me in celebrating the recipient of the first Impact Award, Dr. Dale Nesberry.
That looks pretty heavy. That looks pretty heavy, so.
I think the pedestal is heavier than that, but...
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave this here for a minute.
Yeah.
Mind if I share a few words here? Okay, folks, so if I'm smiling from ear to ear, there's a reason, obviously. But you may not know that this took a little doing to get me here. So tonight, literally at this very moment, I'm supposed to be in Grand Rapids. I also sit on the board of Talent 2025, and we have our annual meeting today. Our chief executive officers from around the region, 130 of them are meeting in GR. And I'm part of the sort of the planning process, and I had a part in that meeting. So these guys had to sort of figure out how I was going to get back here in time to attend the meeting, and now I kind of know why. So very good. You know, I'd like to thank these outstanding gentlemen and the board of the Community Foundation as well, because I know many of you have served on the board. You've contributed, probably most of the people in this room today. So thank you for that. And I know I have at least 3 Muskegon Community College trustees, and I saw multiple staff people here as well. I was wondering what all of these guys doing here as well. So now I have an answer to that. But what I can say is that the board, from the time I began here, they had a mission. They knew what they wanted the college to accomplish, and they did that. So I'm very thankful that they were willing to do it. So I'd be remiss if I did not recognize my wife Connie, who's here today. And she is one of those people who sort of, along with Cindy DeBuff, my executive assistant, and Todd Jacobs, who sort of made it so that I could make it. But I'm also a proud Michigan State University Spartan. Go Green! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I say that because I'm just thinking about, so what would I say when I receive a award like this? But, you know, the coach of Michigan State University's football squad, he has all of these sayings that he shares. And something that he said rang clear with me, and it sounds a lot like what I learned from my board. Don't necessarily do what you want to do. Do what you need to do. So just think about that. You have a vision, you have a mission in your life, or what you'd like to accomplish, but it may not be what the college needs in this case, or the broader community needs in this case. So had I followed my initial goals, we would have not set as a priority to have one of the first buildings that we either renovated or constructed to be the Sturris Technology Center, right next door. That was an empty building. I don't know if John Rooks is here, but John Rooks donated the Masonic Temple to us to help us meet that vision. That wasn't my initial priority, though. So my board, because of where they were thinking, what they knew the community needed, they were going in that direction. So, you know, we've raised a lot of money, we've done things that we intended to do, but primarily it's for our students. Because I was a kid, indeed, I grew up in Twin Lake, Michigan. I grew up between, you know the little lights in Twin Lake, you make a right and go a mile down there. That's where I grew up. So there's a lot of folks out there who don't believe that they can either attend college or become something more than what they've heard all their lives. And I want to change that, and our board wants to change that, and all of our staff wants to change that. And clearly I'm thankful that the Community Foundation does recognize the kind of work that a college can do in a community as now robust as Muskegon. So thank you, folks. I appreciate it again, and it's I can't believe it.
Very deserving. Maybe a round of applause for Connie and Cindy for making sure Dale made it here on time. The power of one, the power of making an impact. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for all that you do individually for our community. Thank you for helping to move Muskegon County forward. If you don't have weekend plans, I'm going to give you a little bit of a commercial. Bill Black, the Magician, is on the stage tomorrow evening. The Civic Theater starts Steel Magnolias in the Beardsley this weekend. Please come back and visit the Frauenthal. And again, congratulations, Dale. Everybody continue to enjoy the fellowship. Thanks for coming.